Three, two, one.
This is episode 34 of DJ Talks. My name is Johnny.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan.
You may notice that we have a special guest on the show today. Kevin, tell him a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin. I sometimes watch DJ Talks. Pretty cool.
By sometimes, he's the only one to comment and watch every single one of our episodes, which is really, really heartwarming to me and Dan. Just because we literally started doing this for fun. I talked to Dan about this at the very beginning, that I wanted to find someone to do a podcast with. I might want to consider doing this in the future, in the gaming industry.
Mm-hmm.
And really likes talking about this kind of shit that I like talking about. So we just started I don't know, we just started rolling with it. We posted on Facebook and stuff, and all of a sudden Kevin has been really, he's been giving us a lot of feedback, and he watches us every week and he comments all the time. So it's really nice to have someone to engage with a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and your gamer tag or your normal gamer tag, I have at AyumiCat. I hope that's right. I hope that's pretty much
sure.
everything.
Yeah, you can find me on League and Blizzard stuff. That's my name on everything, basically.
There we go.
There you go. So if you guys have probably played with him at one point or another.
Probably.
That's all I know people by gamer tags, man. Hey, yeah, you're oh yeah.
Don't add me, by the way, don't add me. I will do your friend request unless I know you.
I mean, it's also really funny because I have a friend who's really active in the Pokemon Go community, and they have huge Discord servers full of people all the time, and they're going at raids and shit, right? But what's really cool is that they know each other by their Pokemon Go trainer names, and they don't know each other by their real names. So my buddy's name is Sapphire Swords, and everyone knows him as Sapphire, and I'm like, it's a really fucking cool name, and people know each other by their gamer tag.
How the
it's
world
very,
is now.
yeah,
Gaming world right here.
yeah, exactly.
Gamers.
Yeah, we might as well just be our gamer tags.
Yeah.
Weird. All right.
So last week we talked about our favorite anime of all time, and we wanted to go over some of our viewer comments, which actually came from Kevin. Kevin, do you actually want to pull up your comment and tell us your thoughts on your favorite anime and things like that?
Yeah, sure. Wait, I didn't prepare for this. Let me load it up.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed recording last week's episode, mostly because it was a really good opportunity to talk about some things that I hadn't talked about before, specifically with Love Live, which is we're gonna revisit today when we talk about our feature topic of today. By the way, for anyone that's watching, if there are any topics that you don't give a shit about and you want to skip over, the timestamps are going to be in the description. If you want to jump to the more relevant topics, just go to those. Later, we're going to be talking about Nintendo Direct. We're going to be talking about our actual main topic of weeb culture in America. So go ahead and skip to those if you want to just go ahead and hear those. But Kevin, I want to hear about your favorite anime and just give us the rundown.
All right, sure. It was really hard to put top 3 since that was the video theme last week. Some of my top 3s would be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Nisekoi, and ReZero. But I also want to shout out to Your Name and the Avatar series, just because those were the only animes that I've ever really rewatched, and I've watched them probably more than 3 times already.
All of them?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Full Metal
actually back to back too.
Yeah. Full Metal Alchemist, definitely one of the top animes ever in general, right?
Yeah.
For most people, very highly rated, very well done. The art style is amazing. The battle scenes are great. The music, the tension, everything about it kind of runs it. So I definitely enjoyed that. I haven't actually heard of Nisekoi. What is that? If you can kind of
Don't go watch it. It's trash.
It's not trash. I don't think it's trash.
If any of you can explain that.
Yeah. I'll give you a summary. And then Kevin, you can fill in where you can. Actually, it's one of your favorites. Why don't you just tell us about it?
All right. There isn't actually a storyline.
Sounds great already.
It starts off, and then you expect some great storyline because, oh wow, there's some mysterious long lost childhood friend that he's that he likes, but all of a sudden just devolves into this really stupid comedy anime,
Okay.
and yeah, that's it. It's really cool because I think it's really funny. It has a lot of like really basic jokes, but the way that it's animated and the way the characters interact with each other is just really funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I also like
enjoyable.
Shaft. Shaft is awesome.
So just to follow from that, Nisekoi, I completely agree. There's literally no storyline. So what's really nice about this series is that like you can just watch it or read it, and you won't go anywhere. But it's a lot of fun because the characters are all really lovable. For the most part, it's really easy to follow. Where like kind of like Dan, you and I talking last week about how Love Live does a really good job at just doing one thing and just entertaining you. Like it doesn't try to do anything else. It doesn't try to
Right.
go beyond that. Nisekoi is literally like I like to compare it to like stay-at-home moms watching soap operas that like just don't go anywhere. Like Nisekoi is like for weebs that just want like a really funny, innocent harem. And for you guys that don't know what a harem is, it's like where there's one main male
Three.
character with a bunch of female characters that like the same guy. But like the story doesn't go anywhere. It's really funny, and eventually, he chooses one, but like it takes fucking forever. It's just really entertaining because like the value of like seeing the characters interact with each other, and like just knowing that it's really easy and chill to read. So the moment you think the story's going anywhere, you get your hopes up, and you're like, wait, nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna revert back to like where they were before.
Yep.
So
It just stops again. Boom. Done.
yeah, it just stops. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So just a very enjoyable anime, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Just purely on the enjoyment factor. All right. Yeah, and then your other ones, what were they? The Avatar, ReZero. Oh
yeah, I
god.
also like ReZero.
When is season 2 coming out again here, or season?
Probably never.
season
Oh,
Are you kidding me? They have to. They
there
have
will
to.
be an OVA. They just Crunchyroll just posted a news article. There will be an OVA in the makes.
There you go. I
Mhm.
mean, there's so much. Isn't there? Maybe it's just in North America here or the U.S. that there's so much hype around ReZero. Is that not the same in Japan? That's what I'm trying to think. Like, they're making. If they're not making money off this, they wouldn't create more. But they have to be. They have to be, with how much attention it received.
See, that's a really unique point, Dan, because I know that a lot of people felt the same way about Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm.
But Attack on Titan is way more popular in America than it actually is in Japan, from what I've heard. So, while it's still like a lucrative series that's really like popular and well known, I think that it's really interesting because from our perspective, we just hear so much about it from like the people that we know in like that consume the content versus like the creators and like the more original, like source of that kind of stuff. Being in Japan, it's not as popular. So I thought it was really interesting.
Maybe they ran out of ideas. Maybe they can't think of where to
Maybe.
go.
Who knows?
It's so convoluted.
Maybe that's what happened with No Game No Life, where like they just like didn't know where to go forward, so they just released a fucking movie about like the genesis of the world.
Mhm.
But that movie was so like, it was all over the place, man. It's like one of those things where like you have to watch it intoxicated or something, otherwise you're probably
Oh,
not gonna
God.
enjoy it. But
But
even then, one of my friends told me he got high, he watched the movie, and he still didn't enjoy it. I'm like, I watched it sober, I didn't like it. Maybe you'll like it high. He didn't. So I mean, maybe to each his own. But
there you go.
yeah.
And
Not
then-
that I'm advocating for drugs on DJ Talks. Don't do drugs, kids. Don't fucking do drugs. But
unless you share them with him. I'm kidding.
no, not what we're saying. But anyway, moving right along, we're gonna talk about some brief highlights between me and Dan. So Dan, you want to talk a little bit about like what you've been up to this week?
Man,
Maybe what you'll be up to in the weekend?
you know what? Nothing going on as of this past 4 days, but I am going to San Francisco for the next from Saturday to Wednesday. So
Oh, long weekend.
hell yeah, long weekend. I'm gonna enjoy some food. I'm gonna enjoy the bay. I've been there already, so I mostly just checking it out for the things I've missed probably, and more of the smaller spots around the area.
Mhm.
Visiting a friend who also watches DJ Talks every so often. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited. It's been a while since I've traveled, so
That sounds
go from
good.
there.
Shout out to Winfield if you're watching this episode. You're my boy. I miss you.
All right, screw that. He doesn't need a shout out.
I mean, he made our logo. We gotta give him a shout out. I think we actually already did.
Mhm.
But yeah. So this week I actually had a really unique experience. So my old manager at my job at Starbucks, he had a heart attack
Ooh.
early January, and it was a really, I don't want to say it was traumatic because it didn't affect me as much as I thought it would,
Mhm.
but it was really hard to see because I actually saw him collapse, and I was there when his body was kind of responding to everything that happened, and I was there when the paramedics came, and I was also responsible for like clearing out the store. There's a lot that happened that day, but in short, he did suffer a heart attack, and he was making a miracle recovery by like every definition of the word. Like, um, he suffered a little bit of brain damage, and he went into a coma for a little while, but there was no major damage to any other like organs in his body.
Mhm.
Um, he was brought back to life by the man who performed CPR on him, which was a really big shocker because he did flatline for a while where he wasn't breathing, his heart wasn't beating, and it was pretty scary. I did a pretty good job of staying calm in the moment, but like it really hit me when I went home and I started thinking about like the loved ones in my life and thinking about how it could really happen to anybody because he's a pretty young guy. He was only like 34, so pretty scary. But anyway, this week I finally got the chance to talk to him, and his speech is still a little weird. He's suffering from something called an aphasia, where he forgot a lot of what has happened over the past like 10, 15 years of his life, but he's beginning to remember random bits and pieces of his life, and they're slowly coming back to him, and having conversations with different people bring a lot of those memories back, um which is really exciting because it only goes to speak to like how much of a miracle it was that he's making so much progress in such a short amount of time. It's also really interesting because his speech was also really weird. Like where like just a week ago he wasn't able to like produce words or like
Mhm.
speak in intelligibly, but now he's like having conversations with people. He'll randomly forget words or mispronounce words, but like that's kind of expected with someone like in his state. So I guess what I wanted to highlight was just that um, he he didn't remember my name when I went to visit him at the hospital, but he remembered exactly who I was. He remembered when he hired me. He remembered who I trained with. He remembered a lot of like little random things about me from my interactions and working with him. And just for an hour and a half, I spent that time like telling him stories about like the kind of person he was and like some of the conversations I had with him, some of the things that I knew he liked and some of the things he didn't like,
Mhm.
some of the quirky things that he did while he was working with me. Um, and it was really heartwarming knowing that like I I don't know, even if I left and he still didn't remember my name or much about me as like either of us would have liked, that I had like a really positive effect on helping him recover and bringing him back to like his old former self. So I would say that was the highlight of my week, and I was like, it was just really nice spending time with someone that I hadn't seen in so long. So
Whew.
that was, yeah. I mean, I left
Yeah.
the like I left not really knowing what to say either.
It's
But
situations like that. It's tough. Like you
yeah,
don't know what to say ever.
yeah.
Um, I haven't actually been in a huge situation like that yet, or luckily, but um, I can only imagine.
Yeah. But moving past that, aside from like my emotional story, I want to talk a little bit about the Nintendo Switch Direct or Nintendo Direct announcement. So we're recording this on Thursday, a little earlier than usual because Dan has to like fucking pack and do work and shit before he leaves San Francisco. But it lines up really well because the Nintendo Direct announcements happened earlier today. It is March 8th, so I want to know from you guys a little bit about your thoughts on some of like the big titles. The first one is that they announced that Smash Bros. Game is coming to the Switch. Kevin,
Woo!
were you ever like big on like Smash or anything, or like how do you feel about Smash coming to the Switch?
No, I actually don't play a lot of Smash. I know a lot of people that do play Smash. I do have Smash for a 3DS, but I'm really bad. Like I watch sometimes just because my friends are really into it. Aside from that, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty bad too. I don't have it on the 3DS, but I have it on the Wii U, and I know that there's like some compatibility where like if you have a 3DS, you can play with people on the Wii U and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like the game on the 3DS and the Wii U is just going to be ported over to the Switch. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like Smash 4 Deluxe or something where they're going to take that game, port it over, and then like what I'm really hoping is that instead of forcing people to buy all the new DLC characters that like you have to buy on the Wii U, that you could just it'll just come preloaded on the Switch, similarly to what they did with Mario Kart Deluxe, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. Dan, what do you think?
I hope they come up with something new. Like, I want something fresh. I want those campaign modes back. You know,
Yeah.
Get some like you walk through this 2D style thing. You fight some bosses. You fight other characters. I like that PVE system. You know, I really like that campaign, especially Melee had. I don't know if you remember the story. I think I just watched it briefly, but that had a great campaign and it felt good. Every time you had a new character come up and you get to unlock a character, there's this random story that comes in and character that pops up, and it's hell yeah, that looks so cool.
Yeah, that story is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just want something new. Like with the Switch right now, they're porting over a lot of games, which is great, and they're porting a lot of games from other systems and other sources. But I want something new, something creative, something fresh. So, with the Nintendo Switch direct announcements, there wasn't anything amazing that at least popped out to me. Like they had the new Mario Tennis Aces, which actually does look cool.
It looks so dope.
It actually does look cool. I don't know if you guys have played Mario Tennis before, but they've added a couple of new things, a couple of new tricks. They have a adventure mode. They have new characters. It's pretty much like Smash but tennis, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I think I'm gonna go get it when it does come out.
I'm probably gonna get it on release too, yeah.
Probably gonna get it. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, there was one other one. I think it was the Octopath Traveler that sort of looked interesting to me. More like a Final Fantasy-ish kind of.
Like the JRPG type game.
Yep, JRPG style. So.
Yeah.
But other than that, it looks like all of the games are like games we've seen or games we've already played. Now it's just put onto the Switch. So.
I guess I understand the sentiment of like it kind of sucks that we don't see more games that we really like or that we would like you don't see as many original titles for the Switch. It's all like stuff that we've seen before just being brought over. So I understand why that wouldn't be exciting. I guess for me, a lot of the excitement comes from the fact that like Nintendo opening the doors to indie developers to bring their games to the Switch is just huge because it's creating this central platform for all of your favorite games to be, and you can play them wherever the fuck you want. Like that's the crazy thing, right? Like think about Steam. I think Steam is an amazing platform for all different sorts of games. And you can download literally all these weird different types of games on there with like small amounts of money. You can buy them wherever you want to. Like Humble Bundle is really cool for a lot of people to like get their favorite games or like try new games really cheap. I play Civ 6 with my friends a lot, and that was a game that I bought on Humble Bundle for like $12, which is really cool, right? And you have this whole library of games that you can install whenever you want to on one account. But the thing that the Switch does is that while you can like slowly accumulate that library, you can bring it wherever you want. And like as more people buy Switches, you'll have more multiplayer interaction in different areas, and you'll also be able to like bring that console over to like a friend's place with the dock that's really portable and easy, right? So I feel like more games that we're seeing like this that are really small but like ported over like old favorites, I'm a huge fan of. So like but I can understand why like for you, Dan, like from where you're coming from, it's just not that exciting because it's not new. Like you've seen it before.
Right.
Like Okami, for example. That's a game that was like on the Wii a long time ago.
Hmm.
I actually saw it on sale the other day at GameStop when I went to go pick up these Pokemon codes. Like I saw it on sale for like 15-20 bucks, and I'm like, man, that's a game that I've wanted to play for a while. And now they announced it for the Switch, so I'm probably gonna pick it up on the Switch. It's probably gonna be the same price, like 15-20 bucks, right? That's something that we've seen before, and that's something I guess I can get excited about because I've never played it before. But like, you know, when are we gonna see like our big, Switch titles that are brand new? I think like that seems to be where you're like going towards,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I want it. I want that everything. I want that Metroid. I want that new, like, we already had Wind Waker. I mean, oh my god, I'm so
Wind
lost
Waker.
in my head here. Yeah, Zelda wasn't that
Yeah.
ported from the Wii U too? Right? It was
So,
already
Wind Waker HD was brought over from the GameCube, and it
Mhm.
was remastered for the Wii
Okay.
U specifically.
something brand new.
Yeah.
Mario Tennis, like you have it before. Now you're just adding a couple new tricks here or there.
hmm
Give me something new, Nintendo. Give me
So-
something that you've created, you know?
On that note, I will say I think that Nintendo's gonna shit on everybody at E3 this year. I'm gonna call it now. Like we know that there's gonna be an Animal Crossing game coming out for the Switch at some point. There's no fucking way that we're not gonna get an Animal Crossing
Mhm.
game. They've already confirmed a Pokemon RPG. We already know that Metroid Prime 4 is in development.
Mhm.
Bayonetta is like getting more popular, and we're probably gonna see that like Bayonetta 3 announcement, like with summer kind of release date. And I'm sure that those games we're probably gonna see as like the early 2019 thing or like holiday 2018. But I think that those really big, exciting announcements coming this
Yeah.
year are gonna be huge, and that's gonna get a lot of people really excited. Like, there's so many people on the fence about buying a Switch, and like I think these games like push them over the edge.
Oh, for sure. They're saving all the good stuff for E3. That's probably
Yeah.
what they're doing. They're like popping out the stuff that's gonna maybe draw interest a little bit here or there
Yeah,
in the beginning, and then E3 they're gonna pop out with these like boom, 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 major titles here or there. But it's painful to wait.
yeah, it sucks. I just, oh man, I know what you mean, man. I want the game sooner than later. But truthfully, I have so many Switch games that are just like in my library that I haven't played because I'm working so much. Like,
Mhm.
I still haven't started Super Mario Odyssey. Don't hate me. I bought Fire Emblem Warriors, and it's just like sitting there. I haven't played it. I bought, oh man, Xenoblade Chronicles is sitting there, and I haven't started it either. I also have Bayonetta. I haven't started that either. It's like, oh man, I need to sit down and play these games. But
Kevin, do you have a Switch?
No, I don't.
What is
Do you
holding you
wanna
back
get
from
one?
a Switch?
What is holding me back from the Switch?
yeah,
Well, I have like a bunch of 3DS games that I've not even touched yet. I have like Monster Hunter and
Ooh,
the past
yeah.
few Pokemon games.
Yep.
They're still all sealed.
Oh shit.
that's crazy.
I don't play my 3DS.
No worries. No worries. It's not for everybody here. Nintendo's
So, do you think that if you got a Switch, you wouldn't play it either because you don't play it on your 3DS?
I think the game that I'll play the most is probably Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun playing Mario Kart.
But
Especially
Mario
the
Kart's
Wii
already
ones.
out, so you can get it for the Switch now and join us.
Oh gosh.
Johnny's trying to get everybody in there. But
I
yeah.
want everyone to buy a Switch because I am such a big advocate of the fact that this is the best console of our current generation now. I think it's the best console on the market, and if I have more of my friends buying the goddamn console, then I have more friends to play with.
There you go.
That's my goal,
Who
man.
cares about PC? We're going to the Switch right now.
PC is great. I'll always play pickup games of League and Overwatch and shit, but like I want my friends to buy Switches, man. I'm trying to push them.
There you
I'm
go.
trying to push them. Yeah.
All
I don't
right.
even work for Nintendo. Should pay me for this. All right. So now we're gonna move on to our feature topic of the day, and it's weeb culture in America. And I don't want to make it seem like this formal thing, like in America, but like I just want to specify that we are gonna mostly talk about like American society, Western society, and the influence of anime and perceived Japanese culture.
Mhm.
But I guess first we should define what a weeb is or what a weeaboo is. I think that a weeboo is just someone that's like really enthusiastic about something to the point where it's like kind of unhealthy. Do you guys have like your perceived thoughts on like what a weeaboo is, aside from the anime
Weaboo, a negative
context of the definition?
Well, from my understanding, a weeboo is a derogatory term that defines someone who's really obsessed with Japanese culture and like anime, manga, stuff like that. Basically, they put Japanese culture above their current culture, regardless of where like who they are and where they live.
That's a really good summary. Dan, what you got?
Dude, I don't know too much about weeb stuff. I don't know about weeaboo as much. I literally, I think I learned it like last year. But yeah, all I've heard about it was it is a negative, term for people who really enjoy, or at least go obsessively to one end of the Japanese culture, anime, manga, and those types of things. So, I don't know how it is now perceived still. It's
Probably
still negative. People still use it very loosely, though, right?
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah,
like,
so that's a really
hey.
weird thing, right? Like, I think now we're in this weird phase where people will call each other weebs if they like. I've heard the question like, how much of a weeb are you? And I guess like that's very very loaded, right? That kind of comes off as like how much in this like negative direction of like obsession with anime culture are you like drowning in versus like are you a big weeb or like a small weeb and like how much anime you watch, right? But I think that there's a real difference between like someone that like watches anime and someone that's like by definition a weeaboo. And I think that being a weeb does have a lot of negative connotations to it in a sense that people think it's bad to kind of drown yourself in this culture. Why do you guys think that is? Go ahead, Kevin.
I I don't know. I mean, it's probably used like in a way. It's like jokingly. And it's like all the bad stuff that all the bad words that we say to each other now. Like even if it theoretically has a really bad meaning, you can say it as a joke. People that don't really mind it.
Or when you're really close to somebody, or when you're
Yeah.
friends with somebody.
Yeah.
It's
Why
a tough
would
thing.
Yeah, I don't know why someone would enjoy being called a weeb.
Maybe because they're just so into that Japanese culture. They think weeb and they feel like, hey, I am a weeb because I am passionate
Oh gosh.
about this stuff. This is my passion. This is what I love. This is who I am now. So they don't mind being called a weeb, or don't really think that it's a negative connotation, negative word towards them at least.
See, but right there, I think like that interaction of like it sounds weird to say that you're a proud weeb, right? Like just those words, like it just gives you a weird vibe because like it just naturally has that negative connotation. And calling someone a weeb is almost saying like it's like you're downplaying who they are by just generalizing the type of person they are and just categorizing them and like just stapling those stereotypes, right? So I would say like for sure I agree that the term is used more negatively than positively. I also completely agree with Kevin in that like it is one of those terms where I guess it's not taken as seriously because you hear it used so often and jokingly that people kind of just assume that like the term is used so loosely that it has a couple different definitions, and based on like what kind of context it is, jokingly or not, it'll have like slightly different meanings, right? And I think that like calling each other a weeb just kind of suggests like maybe some camaraderie in that like you guys enjoy type of content that you're consuming, or it does have that really negative connotation of like just being obsessed with like Japanese anime culture and stuff, right?
Now, is that a bad thing either? Like being obsessed or really fully enjoying, yeah, weeb is a negative term, but really fully enjoying the anime, the manga, the everything related to that. Is that not something that we as human people do? right now in mainstream, like basketball, football, whatever it is, people get super crazy about it. You see them in the streets, you know, the Super Bowl. Oh my God, we finally won our first. People are tearing shit down in the streets. Is that not super passionate people, right? So yeah, you can create a term that defines this group of people. Um, but the initial startup may have been from somebody who didn't understand why they enjoyed it. Maybe that's why weeb is so negatively looked at. Or, I mean, in sports they call them fans. So
Nothing wrong with being a fan.
exactly, we're just a fan
Kevin, do you have
of
any
this
thoughts?
stuff.
I guess the main problem was just like if you think about a typical weeb and then you compare them to like maybe a sports fan, a weeb doesn't really separate what they're a fan of compared to a sports fan. Like they don't have the separation of real life and the media they enjoy. And being exposed to a lot of weebs myself, I've been to like anime conventions, events that involve anime, and I just see some pretty nasty people that are
By nasty, do you mean like mean, or nasty, do you mean like gross, or?
um a little bit of both, like nasty literally and nasty figuratively, because like they have this aura where they're like trying to force what they enjoy onto you so much, and then on top of that, their nasty body odor gets to you. So you're just like, dang,
Yeah,
you're,
it's
you're
pretty
hitting
bad.
me with a left and right hook. Like, one of them just dodge. Like, I
Yeah.
jump over you. Oh wait, you're really big and fat too. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry for fat people. Um, those are just all the bad experiences. So
Oh
Yeah, I
man.
mean, obviously, what you're describing are like very extreme examples, right? And like, truthfully, having been to like these events that you're describing, Kevin, like really big card game regional tournaments that are like anime themed, going to anime conventions, right? Going to big game festivals. I know exactly what you're talking about. There are these extremes, and literally everyone I know who's gone to these events before would agree that there are those extremes of people who are larger, smellier, and like a little more enthusiastic than the rest of us. Obviously, I doesn't speak for everybody, but like I kind of see where you're going with that. Um, so I think that you made a really good point, Kevin, that they force upon you what they really, really like. And then Dan, you made a really good point too, where you're talking about how there really isn't like a major difference in the idea of the fandom. You have people that love their favorite basketball teams, and they'll like wear their jerseys wherever they go, and they're like wear their favorite players' shoes with their names on them, and they'll be really, really into that thing, right? But like somebody wearing a basketball jersey on the street is cool. Someone wearing a backpack of their like from their favorite anime is weird, right? And so I want to touch on a topic that I think is a really big distinction between the two by telling a little bit of a personal story, but then also comparing it to the world of esports. I'm not going to go too into my personal story because I want to get to that point. Um, so in the last episode of DJ Talks, I talked about why Love Live was my number 2 favorite anime of all time, and why like I found so much value in embracing that culture and that like series, that franchise in my life. Going through like very various phases of depression and anxiety, whether it's severe or not, I found myself like really drawn to my favorite character in the series, right? And not in the sense that like I was like I had a crush on her. It wasn't the same way that I was like emotionally attached to like a girl that I was dating, but like it felt like I was able to relate to somebody, or that I was appreciated by something, or I could appreciate it while like feeling some kind of reciprocation, right? Which is strange to say because like she's an animated character and I don't like she has no idea who I am. There's nothing that's there, right? It's literally just me listening to her music and then like watching like anime like about her, right? But knowing that I can humanize her in being a fan of her by like buying products of like with her like face or like her name on it or like her logo on it, listening to her CDs, like things along those lines, I think is comparable to somebody that like wears their favorite player's jersey and like kind of obsesses over them, but not in like an unhealthy way to where they, even though they don't know the person, they feel like they know the person, they feel like they understand each other, and like that character or that player represents something that you as a fan identifies by. So this kind of goes around the idea of like where you feel you can be represented and where you can feel like you're appreciated. And I think that like having that someone, that crutch, and that like that source of happiness that I felt, whether it was fictional or not, it felt good, and it was something that was exciting. But then there's the point that I touched on just now, like very briefly. It's fictional. Um, your favorite basketball players are not fictional. They're real human beings. They're actually performing real physical tasks to perform and provide entertainment and also to compete. My favorite anime girl is animated, right? She's fake. She's 2D. There's a voice actor behind her who looks nothing like the real girl. And I think that that's a really big distinction here. I think that there is a really negative connotation to people that are obsessed in a fantasy that doesn't actually exist, right? And when you think about the world of esports, it's really hard to call competitors athletes because they're not actually as athletic in the traditional sense, quote unquote, as someone who's playing football. But there are a lot of arguments for the idea of calling professional gamers athletes, similarly to why something like chess is considered a sport, where there is a lot of mental fortitude and stamina that's required to perform. Also, given the fact that like something like competitive Overwatch or competitive League of Legends or any big esport requires you to actually be physically capable of performing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the fact that there isn't that physical distinction, and it's not as quote unquote tangible or real as what you would see in a traditional sense, right? So I want to know from you guys, right? Do you think that the idea that like anime is fictional and these characters are fictional, like heavily plays into the fact that like it's frowned upon, or is it that there are other things that factor into why it's like not something that society sees as like acceptable? We'll start with you, Kevin.
All right. So I actually have a kind of a short story. So I was like in an Uber ride 2 years ago in LA, and it was a really long Uber ride, and it was a solo ride too. So first of all, the driver obviously introduced himself and asked me like the basic questions: where am I going? What was I up to today? Just small talk stuff. And I was actually in LA to play in an anime card game. And so I was telling him about like my experience, how I qualified for the tournament in LA, and he was really surprised because he had I think he had a son that was really into Pokemon, and he wanted his dad, the driver, get into it too. And ultimately, like I asked him just like what do you think about the introduction of anime or like just non-American culture to Americans, him not being Asian himself. And he was really receptive of it. He was like, like I think of it just like watching it like any other media, like people like watching Game of Thrones or like The Office or like Rick and Morty. Like everyone watches these things and you don't get really made fun of that for it. So like why would someone who watch anime be the big target? If they're watching it, like if they're watching that media and they enjoy it, as long as they're not really hurting anyone or they're not doing anything illegal, then I don't really see a problem in it. Yeah, sorry, what was your question? I think I deviated too far.
No, you're fine. I think you made a really good point about like not forcing your hobbies on someone, or like kind of putting them in a position where like you're bringing it out to past like your own enjoyment, right? But I was asking you about the distinction between like the idea that the content that we're consuming, like in the world of anime in general, is like fictional versus like what we see in more physical and more real things. Because I guess another example of that, I was talking to my sister about this just the other day. She was watching, I think it's called Vampire Diaries. It's a show on Netflix about like these really gorgeous looking people that are vampires and shit. And like there's a bunch of drama going on between them, and like they're like dating each other, and like all this weird shit happens, whatever. And I told her, it's kind of funny because I'm watching an anime too where like a lot of the characters like super gorgeous, and it's about vampires. It's called Bakemonogatari, right? And
Good
I
show.
was telling, yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I haven't finished it myself, but I think it's really good so far. And I was telling her, Emily, I think it's really interesting that you're watching something that's themed similar to something I'm watching, but you have your preference and I have my preference based on like the theme and how it's presented, right? And it's not that I had anything against the Vampire Diaries, and I don't think she had anything against anime either. I actually think that she's just lazy and doesn't want to listen to anything without dub. But I just thought it was interesting, right? Like, I know that there'll be people. In fact, I know people that would frown upon the idea of like watching something that's fictional when they could watch something real, or like just have their preferences. So I wanted to know, Kevin, your idea on like the fictional world of things and appreciating that versus like the comparison to like the real world counterparts.
Okay, all right. So I was kind of on the right track. Yeah, I think watching anime is kind of cool because there's just a large volume of it. You get like anime that has a very serious tone. It tells a really deep story, and there's like a lot of character development, and you can really take those themes and transition to real life. It's like similar to like reading a fiction novel for a class and then doing analysis on it. And obviously there's no homework after watching anime to do analysis on it, but like that's what you can take out from it. After watching a show or something, you can like discuss with people and go like, "Hey man, I thought this, then this was really cool. You think that character did the right thing, etc." But then you also get the fictional stuff or the anime stuff that it does nothing. It's like comedy. It's kind of just there. I mean, realistically, like I said before, if you draw the line between what you enjoy, like the media that you enjoy in real life, then that's perfectly fine. But once you blur that line and you mix that fiction with your real life, then there's probably a problem. Probably need Jesus or something.
Jesus.
Wow.
Got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
I
lay
don't
it
know.
on us.
Oh man. Okay. There's a lot of things in anime that just are portrayed really poorly. Maybe not poorly, but lots of female in anime, and lots of images that are not very accepted
The
in
good stuff.
in in the US or in America. Very taboo things like how can I say this little so very beautiful, very naked women almost, I guess you could say.
Just say it, dude.
Fan
Just
service.
a lot of fan service that may have been seen in anime. And that's a lot of. It has a negative view, especially in the US or in America here. That doesn't define anime, but I feel like a lot of that is what is seen in America. So we have had mainstream anime like Naruto and Bleach and those types of things that have hit mainstream a little bit. Dragon Ball Z, things like that. Yeah, they're more mainstream. I don't think people, or at least adults, just think it's cartoons, right? But once you get to the darker side of it, it does get a little bit hazy, and maybe that's what's really splitting. And the realistic versus fantasy, let's be real here. The sports, it's a fantasy as well for the most part. Yeah, they're doing real things, but you're not really partaking in the actual action either, or you're not doing anything that you are achieving. You're watching it purely for enjoyment as well. You're not going to be meeting the players here or there, and you're not going to be doing this and that. So
Yeah.
it's like a fantasy in their mind as well. It's just a different type of fantasy. At least that's what I'm picturing. So, yeah, exactly what you guys say. You just don't shove it and force it into somebody else's face. And maybe eventually anime will be more mainstream, more popular, more accepted in the culture here. And it is. It's growing. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually think that it's pretty mainstream now. I think it's really popular now, and it's really hard to like meet people in general who like never heard of, at least seen like some popular form of a series. And I think that, Dan, you make a really good point about the hypersexualization of women in anime and how like it's just perceived really differently because like it is animated, it is cartoon. And like that kind of goes back to like how who watches cartoons? In general, kids watch cartoons. Yeah, you have stuff like Family Guy, South Park, Rick and Morty, things like that, where those are seen by young adults and stuff. Like in general, cartoons are seen as childish. I mean, you have like a 25-year-old guy or like, you know, someone like around our age, like we're all in the same age range where like we're at home watching an anime with mature women talking about mature things. It does seem kind of strange in like in an American society where it seems like we should have moved past that. We should have grown past that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that definitely is like part of where the misunderstanding is. But Kevin, you also made a really good point that like there are a lot of anime series that are like super serious and talk about very sensitive topics. I think Kimi no Nawa or Your Name, which is like one of your favorite movies that you mentioned, blew up because of such a good story that it told. And there were like mild sex themes in it, like when the guy would wake up in a girl's body, and he's like fondling his breasts because like he was in a girl's body. He wanted to make sure like where he was right, but also because like, he's a teenage dude, so he's kind of horny.
That's a dream of all guys, man. What the heck?
Yeah, I mean, like that'd be.
What would
funny,
you do
right?
if
like,
you
I woke
became
up
a
in
girl?
Body, I would feel it too. I'd be like, I want to know what it's like. But I mean, like that's definitely on a more mild side, but that in like the context of the way it's presented is a little better. Whereas like if I'm watching Bakemonogatari, right, and I randomly get the upskirt shot, you know, that might be seen as unnecessary and like it might be off-putting. I will say though that like I think that there is a lot of sexualization of women in Western culture as well. Rarely do you ever get female protagonists who aren't like super curvy or super attractive and like wearing, you know, outfits that will like say what they will. I know that the Justice League movie got a lot of flack because Gal Gadot had some like she was forced to wear like some interesting outfits and there's some shots of like her butt and stuff that were like totally unnecessary. But
yeah, a lot of
but I guess
comic books and comic book movies have really sexualized women.
Then you split between obviously like fantasy versus real. Like these are drawn, these are imagined versus this is a real person. She's actually real, wearing real things. So yeah, that's the distinct line you need to cross. But I can see imagine yourself here as a weeb, 30-year-old dude with body pillows and like in his room, not showering. Like that's what you picture.
That's
right?
bad.
That's bad, right? It's
I mean, that's what you imagine when you describe it, but it's bad, you know?
Of course, but that's like the extreme side to it, and there are normal human beings that are enjoying these types of hobbies and culture, so.
Yeah. I mean, in college, like, I had a really big table full of like, all this anime shit. Like, my friends would always call me a really big weeb, and they always thought I watched a lot of anime. But truthfully, I actually didn't watch that much anime. I was just like, the couple of anime series that I really liked, I just bought a lot of merchandise from those series. Like, I spent thousands of dollars, like, just being totally forward on Love Live stuff. And, like, that's not something I'm ashamed of. It's something I actually, like, really proud of. But, like, because I had so much Love Live stuff in my room, everyone watched, like, man, he watches so much anime. I was like, no, Love Live is, like, 26 episodes long, 20 minutes each. I just bought a lot of stuff from that one series. Like, well, come on, man. Actually, no, they also had a movie and a couple concerts, but you know, whatever. You get the point, right? But I mean, like, even then in college, like, yeah, I did watch like a little bit of anime, and I also like bought all that stuff. But like, I had a social life, you know. I went to go meet people. I went out drinking. I went partying, and I had friends, and you know, I wasn't like that at 30. I showered, you know, like. It wasn't like that.
Did you?
Image
Did
yeah,
you?
yeah. I would never really leave my apartment unless I showered because like my hair gets all fucked up like the morning after because it's just really oily and stuff. But
morning after what?
No. But I guess it is kind of like strange that like our society just sees things in such a way. Like even now, like. Dan, you were saying earlier, like, would you really call yourself like a weeb and things like that? Like, I would tell people that I was a weeb, but it's not something like I would bring up in the middle of a conversation. Like, if someone asked me like what my interests were, what my passions were, like, I would just tell them like video games, you know, anime, things like that, very briefly. But like, you know, with my friends, I would tell them, yeah, I'm a weeb, and like, I guess like in that sense of like something that I enjoy, that's a thing. But like, I wouldn't say it like in the sense of like, I'm gonna try to live a Japanese life because that's everything that I want, and like everything I see in anime is like exactly the way it is.
Mhm.
That's not my philosophy on things. So I guess like weave in a sense of like I embrace my enjoyment of the content, and like that's something I'll acknowledge and I won't like try to hide.
And you embrace it a lot. You get very deep into what you enjoy. So I guess you
Yeah.
can consider that a weeb if you
I
want it
guess.
to be, right?
I mean, like there's
A
this
little
like
bit.
pillow there, and that pillow is of
They
the
can't see
anime
that.
girl I was talking about. You can't like.
Nope.
Oh, they can't see that.
They can't see that.
Oh, dang! They
If you want to
can or
go,
they can't.
no, they can't. If you want to bring it over here, you can.
Dude, it's adorable, man. It's fucking adorable. It's
There you go.
it's one of these like pillow things. It's like it's a big ass head and it's kind of cute. So
Mhm.
yeah, but any final thoughts, Kevin? Anything that you want to share before we close it out?
Let's see. If you're a weeb and I see you at a regional or a convention and you smell like trash,
Some people don't realize they smell like trash.
yeah, I'm just gonna kill myself on the spot.
Oh my god, it's actually so bad, dude. It's so weird because like around like my friends who aren't like as big on like games and anime, like almost all of my friends are like in some way, shape, or form gamers, which is really cool. Even like I have friends who like they only play games on their phones, like board games and stuff, but like, I still consider them gamers. So around my friends, like I'm a really big nerd, but then at these like regional tournaments, I feel like
The
I feel like a
normal
jock.
one.
Yeah, it's so weird. I feel like a jock at those, like, because I showered, I got dressed, I did my hair, I put a nice shirt on. Like some of these guys, like Kevin's describing, like they don't give a shit about any of that. They roll out of bed, they showered like 3 days ago. They probably forgot to wipe when they took a shit. Like,
Holy shit.
god damn, man! Like, pull it together. You're in public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rough, man.
It can get bad. Yeah, get real bad.
It gets a little bit uncomfortable at these types of conventions sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to those situations where you're standing behind somebody and it's like,
Oh,
It's,
I'm
uh,
telling you, man. I'm telling you.
but it's been fun. I mean, everybody enjoy it. Test it out. If you haven't, just dive in and just kind of look into it because anime brings a lot more than just the weeb life.
Well said, Dan. Well said. But that's gonna be it from us at DJ Talks. We are gonna probably. Are we gonna upload this episode early? Or are we just gonna do it at regular time? What do you
Regular
think, Dan?
time, regular
Regular time.
time.
All right, so you're gonna see this on Monday. Some of the announcements for Nintendo Direct will probably be old by then. But if you guys have any thoughts on any games that you're excited for, if you have any opinions or ideas on weeb culture in general, shoot us an email, djtalkspodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a comment down below. But other than that, thanks for tuning in, and you'll hear from us next week.
Before we end, wait, Kevin, do you want to shout yourself out anymore? Anywhere they can
Do I
find
wanna
you
shout
again?
myself
Again?
He said he didn't want anyone to add him. He doesn't want to plug himself.
All right, we're
out?
good.
Don't add me.
Y'all,
Big shout out to Kevin coming on the show. Thanks a lot for joining us, man.
there you go.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
very
me.
much. We'll see you next time, or you'll see us next time.